Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we doing, people? We are week 2 of TVC Live. It's been an amazing week so far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us a signal in chat if you're here. It'd be nice. You know that I hate talking into the void, so it's really nice to know if you give it up. Good morning, Grissom. Love it. Nick, Grissom's from Canada. Are you impressed? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning over there.
I'm super impressed. That
Right?
is commitment to the cause, huh?
I don't know if it's commitment to the course or commitment to see you. So Nick, you got to lie. You got to give her what she needs, man. Give her what she needs. But I hope you guys are really good. My voice is a little bit. I've had a bit of a weekend, so I apologize for my croaky voice. I should warm up as the time goes in. But fantastic. We're into week 2, the final furlong. It's been an amazing week so far. We've caught up with Paul Gaines from still can't say Ava DuVernay's production company. He talked about the latest film, Cars and Origins, and issues around that. We've had, oh mate, I'm not even going to give you the thing. It's just been bloody amazing. Lily, I know that they're probably bored, but let's just give them the kind of whiz tour. I think we don't need to do it every session, but let's definitely do it this morning. Give them a quick whiz tour around, just in case anybody is joining us for the first time. Will you join me on stage, Lily? Thank you,
I
lovely.
would love to. Hello.
Good
Uh,
morning.
morning. Welcome, everybody. It's lovely to see so many of you here bright and early on a Monday morning. I think there is only one person's name I don't recognise. So this, Nicola Gregory, is for you. Welcome to the TVC Live Festival. This is our online platform. I would like to turn your attention to the black bar at the top of your screens. That is our main menu for the festival. As you can see, it says TV Collective Live in the top left-hand corner. And then the first button you see is the schedule. That is where you can see all of our sessions, past, present, and future. For any future sessions you want to get a reminder for, you can add them to your calendar. For any past sessions you have missed, you can watch them. You click the replay button, it just plays inside the browser. A few buttons on from that, you see the people icon. This is our favorite. So you can see everybody who is coming to the festival. And you can also switch it to everybody who is online right now at the festival. Beneath people's profiles, you will see a little speech bubble and then a little box with a square next to it. Those 2 buttons are the direct message function and the calendar function, which means that you can direct message anybody else at the festival and also request 10 minutes of their time. And that the platform does that from your email to theirs. And that, surprise, Nick, includes Nick. That is why we have this festival, because your network is your net worth, as we say at the TVC. This is about making those all important connections. I can turn your attention down to the right hand side of your screen. That is our in session menu, the little grey one. So at first we have chat, which I don't need to explain because you're all in there. If you have a question for Nick or Simone during the session, please use the Q&A tab, which is the speech bubbles underneath the chat. And if Nick or Simone refer to anything, any resources that you might want to look back on or read during the session, you will find it in the resources tab, which is the little pages icon second from the bottom. That's it.
Wonderful.
Very much.
You are wonderful, Nick. Oh, you're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Lily. We'll see you at the end of the session. Obviously, there's icon. There's like, raise your hand. There's emojis. I'm going to jump straight into, because it's a pleasure to have Nick. I've got no glasses today as well, guys. So I'm going to be like, "Ugh," if I see me leaning in, I apologize. But you're the head of are you the head of distribution over at All3? What? Give me your official job title. I can see it written, but I can't actually read it. And I've known you a long time, so I've just known you, Nick, at All3, who does distribution. Is amazing at it. So give us your official title, Nick.
The official job title is EVP Formats and Licensing at All3Media International. What that actually means is I look after All3Media's slate of formats around the world. So things from Gogglebox and the Traitors, and work with broadcasters, producers in various different countries to help them make hopefully a fantastic version of our shows, kind of sharing all the knowledge, protecting the brands. And then the licensing part is everything off screen. So if you look around in the stores coming up to this Christmas, if you're in the UK, there'll be lots of Traitor stuff, from Christmas crackers to Christmas jumpers that we're working on. We're doing kind of immersive live experiences with some of our shows. So just any way of making money from IP, basically. That's kind of what I look after.
Wonderful. So do you hear that? This is the expert in monetizing your IP. So make sure you get your questions in queue, your questions in. Nick, recently, obviously with the current climate, a lot of conversations around distribution. This could be a a new way to kind of get money for your products, and like there's a kind of new noise around. We've got to connect with distributors and explain to them. And I'm not sure, well, maybe it's just me, but I'm not sure that people are really clear what the distribution is, right? So do you want to just kind of give just a real breakdown, really basic, in terms of distribution, when people are thinking about distribution, what is it that you guys do? Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, I think distributors have been around for ages, and they've been important for ages, but probably not more so than now, because the budgets are so challenging on films, or on TV shows generally. So I guess traditional way, you develop an idea, you go to a channel, you pitch that idea to a channel, the channel says, love that idea. You negotiate on how much it will cost to make that show. The channel says, okay, you want 250,000 for that, we can pay you 250,000 and you're going to make your profit from that. So that's just traditionally how it's been. And then if you can find a distributor to take your show, what that distributor will then do is take that, let's say it's a BBC commission show, they'll take that show to France, to Germany, to the Middle East, to wherever it is around the world that they can sell it to other broadcasters. And those broadcasters will pay a fee just to acquire it, just to put those put that show that you've made for the BBC on in their region. And after the distributor takes their commission, you get the rest of that money. So it's extra money on top. However, now it's getting more challenging for you to get the full budget from a broadcaster. So you might say to a broadcaster, I need 250,000 to make this. And the broadcaster says, that's great, but I can only give you 200,000. So you've got a 50,000 shortfall. Where you can go to for that, there's, I guess, various things that you can do. But one of the things you can do is go to a distributor, and you can pitch the distributor and say, look, the BBC want my film. This is what it's going to be, but I'm 50,000 short. Will you cover that deficit, put that 50,000 in, and then you can have the rights to my show everywhere else around the world. And then if the distributor believes it's kind of a universal topic, something that can sell around the world, then they will cover that deficit and recoup their investment from sales. So it's not ideal for a producer to take money from a distributor, because that money has to be paid back. It's much better if everything can be paid for by the original broadcaster, and then any money that the distributor makes, you're getting it straight away rather than having to pay back the deficit. But needs must.
Yeah,
I guess that's.
No, because I'm getting a sense that more and more producers are kind of looking down that route, kind of coming. And from what I'm listening to you, they can't come to you. You've got to come with a commissioner attached, right? Is that right?
I mean, that's where it works best. As a distributor, we're going to be much more interested when you kind of say, look, we've got a broadcaster really keen. There's just a little bit of money to find. For us to sell a show, it really helps if there's a prestigious broadcaster attached. When you can say BBC or Channel 4, ITV or whatever are airing this in the UK, that gives it a bit of a sense of quality to other broadcasters around the world. Whereas if you're saying, oh, there's a great producer that they won't have heard of because they won't know British producers, or it's a lot harder if it hasn't got a broadcaster on board. Occasionally there are deals that distributors will do where they will fully fund things, but that's quite rare, and it has to be for something that's a real universal subject that will kind of work everywhere, and that's tough, but it's possible.
So, but generally you would kind of wait until you've got the commission, kind of come to you guys if there's, and it's not an ideal situation, but that situation seems to be happening more and more given the kind of current climate. And in terms of where you distribute, what are the kind of regions you tend to distribute? And are there any regions that are surprising or new audiences emerging?
Well, yeah, we distribute basically everywhere in the world. It changes where's kind of the hot countries. I guess it depends on how the economies are doing, what the competition is like in those countries between the networks there. I mean, I guess the biggest change in distribution over the last, I don't know, 10 years or less than 10 years would be the rise of the streamers, and them wanting to take quite often distribution rights worldwide. So that's been, or for regions, you know, maybe just taking certain regions. So that's changed the game quite a lot. There's always been.
I was going to say how so. Yeah, how so?
Well, I guess there's a couple of ways. I mean, well, there's loads of ways actually. I mean, one thing that, I mean, most people have probably watched either Narcos or Squid Game, and you know, these dramas that are mainly in foreign languages, and that's kind of opened, that's from the streamers, that's opened, I think, the eyes of a global audience to being willing to watch content that's not from their home country and watch it in another language, whether it's dubbed or subtitled, etc. So that's kind of pushed up the value, I think, of international productions. But then in terms of the streamers, you know, for a distributor, it can be a lot easier to do a deal with a streamer and do a deal all around the world, rather than doing the little deals with each different network in each country. And sometimes it might make more money if you can sell it to every country and do a deal with every little network, and maybe do secondary deals as well. So maybe you do a deal for free TV and you do a deal for satellite and cable TV as well. But yeah, quicker to do the things to do deals with, like the likes of a Netflix. So yeah, it's always kind of changing. There's always complexities. You know, dealing with somewhere like China, for example, sometimes that can be a really lucrative market, and then other times it's really tough to sell into China, depending on what the government really, their criteria in terms of the content that the channels there are actually allowed to buy from foreigners. So yeah.
So there's all the kind of different impacts in terms of what's politically going on in those regions, has an impact in terms of what people are buying and stuff like that. At the moment, are there right now, I know, like you said, regions goes, you know, peaks and troughs, there's trends and stuff like. What are the hot regions at the moment? What's the regions that are really excited about UK content, and particularly content like as you know, we're all kind of people of color making stories. Are there regions that are really open to receiving our content, particularly from a kind of black, brown perspective, UK perspective?
Well, it's interesting that I think quite often distributors can overlook Africa, you know, because it's, you know, it's not the best paying region of the world in terms of the prices. But if you've got content that is really attractive to an African audience, and by that, obviously black content, stuff that reflects themselves, you know, that Africans can see and kind of go, well, I relate to this. There's good money available in the content, in the content in the market. For example, we did a really good deal for All3Media's. I've just about to call it Blue Story.
Blue Therapy.
Blue Therapy. I can't remember even their own show that we're looking after. But again, yeah, featuring, you know, black contributors. There was, you know, real kind of interest in that, you know, and, you know, shows such as some of the Real Housewives and stuff like that do really well in Africa, because they're reflecting, you know, black people on screen. They will pay well. So it really does depend on the type of content that you have. We're doing, I'm not sure if it's because it's particularly a hot country, but we're doing a lot of stuff in Poland at the moment in terms of formats, remaking formats. And I think it's just, we've got good relationships there. We've got content that seems to be working for them and fitting their market. So I think it kind of depends what you've got in your catalog, but everywhere around the world buys content, buys TV. So it's just about finding the places that kind of that resonate with what you produce?
I think oftentimes, I suppose this is more probably relevant for producers pitching into the UK, that you've got to be, the advice sometimes is to keep it hyper local and niche and make sure that it feels but how do you kind of get that balance for you, particularly for creators of content, creators of color, producing content? Should they be thinking about the global market, and how do they balance that with the needs of the UK and kind of also ensuring their content gets out? Because from what you're saying, it sounds like the world's open up and there's all these new audiences that could be potentially open to our content, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is quality. We can see a pitch, and sometimes you hear a pitch from a producer and you think, I can see how that could work in the UK. Great. I can't see it really working internationally because it's so focused on the UK. So it's probably not going to be a big seller. Then sometimes you'll see something that's about a universal subject and you kind of go, yeah, I could see that work in a lot of places. But you can be surprised because it really does come down to how good the actual show is. I guess an example would be something like, and Kevin Ligo spoke on this, about the post office, Mr. Bates drama. Now, when you look at that pitch, you kind of go, well, that is so British. No one's going to be interested in around the world. Drama's so expensive to fund. It was, a difficult decision to go with that, because generally you fund drama by being able to sell it into so many different countries and, etc. But because it caused such a stir in the UK, and because it was so popular and did so well in the UK, other countries, they take note of that, and they want to be across. They want to have shows that are making an impact. And so whereas if that had been quiet and hadn't really garnered ratings and all the press that it did in the UK, I don't think anyone internationally would have touched it. But because it did, it did sell to other countries, because it was obviously a game-changing show, but the subject matter wasn't great for international. So I do think when you're commissioned, you do have to, and there's nothing wrong with producing stuff that is just for the UK or just for wherever country you're from. It's got to be focused at that. But if it's quality, if it's a really strong production, if it breaks through, there'll always be opportunities internationally, even if it's even if it's not sold for money, because there are ways that you can do deals with AVOD sites where, and that's advertiser video on demand sites, where your content, you don't get money in advance, but you get a rev share on when people watch your content. So if there are people out there that are watching your content, you can still get paid for that if your content proves to be popular elsewhere. So
I think, and when you say ad share, that really made me kind of think about what are the different ways that people can kind of be exploiting their content. I think oftentimes we just want to make we just want to make content, we just want to tell stories. It's important, but we actually work in show business and often forget about the business side of things, and so focused and just getting a commission so they can pay and get a little bit. What are the other ways that we can be kind of really exploiting our content or our IP? Here, like you said, licenses. Give us a couple of ways that we can be doing that, or people should be thinking about with their content.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of ways. So I guess one thing to think about is if you're in the UK, there's the secondary market. So because of the terms of trade, rather than, and in a lot of markets, in Germany, if you get commissioned by ProSieben to make a show for them, they own that show. That show is theirs. However, in the UK, when you get commissioned by one of the PSBs, they buy a license to the show. So that will generally be between 3 to 5 years. And after that license is expired, that gives you the right to sell that to other people. Actually, pardon me, quite often it becomes non-exclusive even before it's expired. So if your show would have interest for another channel, depending on it's complicated, and that's why it is good to work with a specialist in this area. But there's ways that you can have your show on a digital channel or on an SVOD, or just be monetizing your content other than just on the primary broadcaster. So once you've made a show, just don't forget about it kind of in 3 or 4 years later, because there's stuff to be done with it. Your show should always be working. I think the licensing side of things is really fascinating. I think a lot of people think about books, and that's a great way to to make money from your programs, is to kind of bring out a book alongside it. But there's so much else, from greeting cards to socks. If your show's been on TV, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people that have watched it, if not millions. So there's a big market that's out there that knows your content. And if you can find the right, and that's the challenge, is if knowing who's out there. There are people that are manufacturing socks, greeting cards, etc., and they want to sell more of their socks, greeting cards. So you need to convince them that your IP, there are fans of your IP out there that would buy that, and then that can be kind of lucrative. You don't really have to do much after you've sold them the rights. They're out there selling for you. So that's, I think, I think it's about making your content work for you.
I would never have considered that if I had done a documentary. For argument's sake, if I'd done a documentary, I definitely, I would have considered the second markets and, like you said, and speaking to somebody like you. But I would never have necessarily considered merch or whatever. And I'm not saying that you can do, a documentary and then do socks with your documentary, but the possibility of where it could be a book or whatever, I don't know that people really consider. Have you got an example of, and it would be great. I mean, it doesn't have to be of color, but if it was, it'd be wonderful. But do you have an example, not necessarily your big traders and stuff, because we know those, where there's a smaller production that has managed to really be successful in terms of selling and kind of exploiting rights? Have you got an example of anyone that you've worked with? It'd be nice if they were smaller, ideally if they were of color, but it'd be great to hear what kind of things they did and how they were able to monetize and get their content out wider.
Okay, let me have a little think. I mean, just being completely honest, and I'm sure it's quite obvious, the bigger the brand that you have, the more opportunities there are out there. If you've got if you own the IP for Barbie, etc., there's going to be, I mean, you think about the amount of deals, amount of different things there are that's out there. And I guess the challenge with the smaller brands is that working with either a distributor or kind of any kind of licensing agent, because they want the bigger brands, because you have to work harder for the smaller brands to get them away. I think, I mean, like in the kids space, I think we don't work in kids at all, so this is kind of not first-hand knowledge, but there's really, there's products for everything out there that you can imagine. So if you get a kids show, that is ripe for licensing, and from the smaller shows right up to the biggest ones. My mind is going blank on me if I can think of like a small show right now that's done amazing in the licensing space. But there's, I mean, lots of books. I mean, I think that's one of the easier deals to do.
But I think that what's really interesting about what you say, and I think that the clue could be, maybe, would you think that content producers could spend more time building their content as a brand? It feels like we're shifting slightly in our products, or our programs kind of become brands, like brands a little bit. So if you had, like, I see Nicola there, and I know she's doing Dreaming Whilst Black, and I know that's resonated so well with the community, kind of building that on the brand and then making a Dreaming Whilst Black t-shirt. Is that kind of the thing that you're saying? So leaning in to the kind of popularity of the show, is that kind of advice that you would give to smaller producers that kind of resonate? Doesn't really make much of a difference. I'm just intrigued.
Well, I think it's much better for you to make money off of your IP than someone else to do it. And if you see somebody else is, if you see cards on Etsy, or you see t-shirts available on eBay or Amazon or something with, characters from your show or whatever it might be, then that kind of tells you that you should be in that space, because someone's making some money from it. They're spending their time on it. So why is that not you? I think what I would say is that, look, the primary job is creating TV. So you don't want to you want to be, creating your next project. You don't want to be spending forever, working on stuff that's not your core business. But I think there's ways to work smart about it by finding somebody that can exploit your IP, that is going to, they're going to take their cut, but they're going to be out there hustling for you, and they're not making any money unless you're making money too. So I think there are deals to be done. And like, why wouldn't you set up a we're just in the process of doing this for a number of our brands at the moment, setting up an online store. So you buy the web domain and you work with a company. There's a few of them out there that have factories, and they'll do print on demand. So you provide them your logo, you provide them with publicity photos, whatever you've got the rights to around your product, and they build a whole store around that. And so people can go on to whatever your program is, they find the website, go on there, and it can be, oh, I'm going to order a mug for my dad for Father's Day with his favorite show on there. I mean, it's not going to make you tons of money, but it's been very little work, and you're earning money for not doing, you've done a contract and then you haven't had to do anything else. There's somebody out there who is printing and then sending it out, and it's also promoting your show. So why wouldn't you do that?
It's an amazing idea, and it's kind of passive income, isn't it? It's like passive is on the side. Like what you said, it's what you set up the deal and it does its thing. It's just quietly doing its thing in the corner. You don't have to sounds like you don't have to give it too much love in terms of like you rightly say, you don't want your whole entire business to be about how do I exploit this, because you've got to make stuff. But having something like that, that's really, I think I might, Lily, make a note of that, because that sounds like a really good idea. This is your TV Collective live, like mugs and stuff like that. Please, guys, put questions in the chat. This is your session. I think, as I said, that somebody has thrown. Oh, we should just Lily commenting, but please put comments in chats and questions in the chat, because this is your session, and we want you to get the most out of this session. As a Black or brown creative, what is the best way to approach somebody like you? And do you kind of specialize? Do you just deal with the really big brands? I know that you're all three, you guys have got massive brands and massive programs already. Do you deal with independent producers? And what are the best ways that people should reach out? Or, how do they approach you? The best way to approach you?
Yeah, we do deal with independent producers. I mean, probably most people are aware All3Media is quite a big production group. So there's a lot of content that comes through the pipeline naturally from production companies that are owned by All3Media, so that we get to exploit that in the international world. But I can't remember the exact percentages of what's internal and what's what we've acquired, but it's probably not that far off from being kind of 50-50. So there's a lot of stuff that we do acquire the rights for. We have a content team who are the kind of first port of call for projects that people have. They're always open to meeting with new producers, finding out what's going on. I think, well, I know from my days working in production and development, more so pitching projects to broadcasters, one of the most frustrating things can be just the wait to know if something's been commissioned, just being messed around for ages and just kind of keep tinkering with things and just never getting an answer. We pride ourselves, and I think it'll be true for most distributors, of being very quick, because it's a very quick thing. You tell us what your project is, and we can say very quickly whether that's something that would work for us in our catalog. And just because we might say no, it's just like pitching to a broadcaster. Just because one broadcaster says no, it's not for them, doesn't mean it's not right for a different broadcaster. So every distributor has got their kind of their sweet spot, their kind of stuff that they're known for, the stuff that what they know works for them, that their sales team are good at selling, that they're going to want. And there's going to be the stuff that hasn't worked for them. They've got history with shows in this kind of genre that hasn't worked well for them, so they're going to stay away from them. But there'll be somebody else that will take those on. So it can be a bit of work to go around. And, look, if you've got the next big thing that everybody's fighting over and it's got huge ratings, then you're going to have every distributor wanting your stuff. But more often than not, you're probably not going to have that show. And so you're going to have to do a bit of searching to go around the distributors to find someone either one that wants your show, and two, that you feel that you can work with, that you kind of like their vibe, you like what they're saying, you feel like you can have a good relationship, because you do have a choice, and you shouldn't work with somebody that, you don't feel is going to give you the love or respect that you deserve.
Is there a checklist of stuff that you know, what are the kind of things if I'm trying to choose a distributor to work with? Because I love the idea, because I think that most people are just grateful that somebody's picked up their program. So I love the idea of putting it on your head and making it it's a really powerful choice. It's a powerful choice, and you should be making that choice in terms of who you want to work with. What are the kind of key things you should be looking at when you're trying to choose a distributor to work with? If you have the choice, and you know you're not kind of desperate, you can kind of sit back and say, actually, be quite strategic about this. What are the kind of, give me like 3 or 4 things that I should be top of the list in terms of looking for a distributor?
I mean, I think it does depend on what type of show you've got, and what your ambitions are. So, for example, you know, there are, you know, and this will likely be the bigger distributors that are able to offer an advance and able to offer you money up front. And it might be that you just kind of go, I need money now. Yeah, and that's fine. You might need cash flow now. So there you might be looking kind of for what the biggest advance is. However, generally, if you're not desperate for that money now, I would say that shouldn't be your kind of key criteria. You should be asking about their strategy. What are they going to do with your show? Where do they see it going? Be looking at what else they've got in their catalog that's like your show. I think sometimes that can be an advantage. Sometimes that can be a disadvantage depending on what type of show you've got. For example, a lot of sales of finished tape, they're done as packages. So if you've got, let's say it's a shop doc, and you partner with a distributor that's got 20 shop docs already in their catalog that are fairly recent, that's quite a good partnership, because you're going to get lumped in with that, and they're going to sell this shop doc package as 21 hours or whatever, however long it is, to these broadcasters around the world. It's more attractive for a broadcaster to be able to pick up and go, oh yeah, shop docs work for us, we can buy all these from one place. Whereas if you go to a distributor that has seen this other distributor's having success with all these shop docs and wants to acquire one for themselves, you're now just one shop doc, and a broadcaster that's wanting shop docs going to go, well, I'm just going to buy from these guys who've got 20. Why am I going to buy this one? It's hassle of doing one deal. So it can work positively in that sense, but also it can work negatively in the sense of, are they going to be pushing their stuff or the stuff they've already got in front of your show? So yeah, I think it's about getting a sense from the team about how much they love your show, what they're going to do with it. I think that's I put a lot of it on vibes when they're meeting with you. You know, sometimes you can have small distributors that don't have the money to pay for advances, and they are going to treat your show like, because it's the biggest thing for them. Whereas you can have other distributors who might offer you, you know, a nice big chunk of money, but your show isn't that important to them in the scheme of things. You're lower down the list in front of all the big shows that they have. So money doesn't necessarily mean that they love your show, or they're going to that they're going to work harder on your show than someone that can't offer you any money. So there's a lot to take in, and it's worth kind of speaking to, if you've got people that you know that are independent, but that understand the distribution or the international TV space, it's worth getting their opinion, because it does differ on a case-by-case basis.
If you want to kind of clue yourself up and kind of understand the kind of more business or the more distribution, this is fascinating. I'm recognizing that there's still a lot for me to learn. Where are the kind of first, is it like speaking to people like you? Where can you kind of get your head, do your desk research, or that trade presses, magazines, stuff that people can kind of start getting into that space and understanding the opportunities? Is there events that people should be going? And how can you start getting yourself kind of savvy to what opportunities? Because it sounds like there's a massive amount of opportunities that I'm not sure that everybody's exploiting, because they might not completely understand the opportunities available to them. So where can they start learning about them?
Yeah, I think trade press is a good place. See what's, because most distributors will put press releases out there about the stuff that they've sold, so you can kind of see where stuff is being sold to. So that's quite key. And even looking at distributors' websites, because they'll have their news section, so you can see what projects they're picking up, where they're selling that. I think that's kind of key information. If you can go to the international TV markets, I think you'll learn a lot from meeting people, speaking to people. So that's places like MIPCOM in Cannes, but there's also opportunities in London. You know, there's Content London at the end of the year. There's the London screenings, which happen in February. And although to get an invite to those events is probably not going to be possible because they're aimed at the international broadcasters, they'll come and they'll sit down with All3Media. They'll sit down with Fremantle, with ITV Studios in a big theatre, and they'll kind of will all. It's basically like an upfronts that channels do. They'll kind of share their new slate and pitch those projects. But you've got all these kind of international producers and broadcasters in town during that period, and there's lots of opportunities to kind of meet people and kind of get to know what's going on, even if you can't get into the events that are being put on by the distributors. There's opportunities around that.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Are we sure nobody? Am I doing that great a job that nobody's got any questions? I just cannot believe that nobody's got any questions. Please do put your questions in chat, because like I say, this is important. This is like, I know Nick, I can reach out to Nick at any time and just say, hey Nick, how you doing? This is an opportunity for you guys to connect with Nick, although like Lily said, you can link with him through the chat folks facilities and obviously our online platform as well. So you've been at All3. Tell us a little bit about your career. So you've been at All3 for a little while now. What made you, and you kind of alluded to the fact that you were in production and development. What made you kind of make the switch? How long have you kind of been in this space? As long as I've known, you've been kind of a really respected distributor or in the space. But just give us a little bit of background about you.
Yeah, I'm part of the furniture now, All3Media. I've been here over 15 years, which is remarkable considering I'm still 25. But yeah. No, my backstory, I started at the BBC. I started in entertainment development. I was part of the development team that developed Strictly Come Dancing, or Dancing with the Stars as it's known. And I was the one, whereas everybody kind of claims that they were part of, they were the ones that created it. I was the one that said it would never work. Who wants to watch people bad at dancing? I got, Pop Idol was big at the time, and I was like, yeah, it's fun to watch people bad at singing, but why would you want to watch people bad at dancing? So shows how much I knew back then. I worked in development for a lot, worked production, lots of entertainment, kind of reality, that type of stuff. I actually got into distribution. Don't mind sharing the story. I had a relationship breakdown, and so had a young son. Needed to just have something a little bit more stable so that I knew I could be able to see him at weekends, wasn't working kind of Saturdays and Sundays every week. Needed to get a new mortgage, so wanted something a bit more stable. And I just was thinking, well, what? And I'd had a couple of bad production jobs. I'm sure we've all been there, where you've worked on a show and you just thought, I don't see myself doing this for the next 30, 40 years, whatever, because this is horrific. So yeah, I was in that kind of down moment. I thought, well, what can I do that would use my skill set? I don't really want to start right at the bottom somewhere else. Like, where can I kind of transfer into? And I just did some reading, and I found out about distributors. I knew very little, but I just emailed a load of people and just to kind of see if I could have coffees with them. Most of them didn't get back to me. One woman did. I went in for a coffee. We had a chat. I realized how little I knew about distribution, but it was good, and it kind of piqued my interest. She didn't have any jobs at that time. I went back. I did a couple more jobs in distribution, and then she called me up and said, "Look, I actually have a job now, which might work for you. It's kind of pitching formats around the world, and I know that you said how much you kind of enjoyed." Pitching shows and creating shows, and here you wouldn't need to create them because they'd already be created, but it's about trying to sell them, and so that's how I got in. Originally just started selling formats, and then just over time just kind of grew into running the format sales team, and then I've kind of moved out of format sales now, and I actually just look after the production and the exploitation of formats after the sales team has sold them. So yeah,
But even in that sharing, that you just gave us, people who are maybe kind of frustrated about this potential time and like not being able to get work away, but have transferable skills. It even sounds like it may be something that people might want to explore. And it definitely feels that it's becoming more and more important. I'm hearing the conversations around distribution coming up more and more and more, particularly during this time. We've got a question. Let me show you our question. I'm going to invite Grayson on. Say, can you see that, Nick? Are you able to read that?
I can.
Wonderful.
Yes. I would say fairly early. I would say the best time to kind of approach a distributor would be where you've got some channel interest. You don't need to actually have a commission yet. I think if a channel is, especially if a channel's putting some money in, if they're giving you some development funding, I think that's a good time to start speaking to a distributor, kind of gauge their interest. It also depends what you need. If the channel's not really giving you as much money as you want, which is quite often the case, then a distributor will quite often top that up. So for example, let's say a channel says, yeah, we quite like that, we'll give you 5,000 development funding. You go to a distributor and they quite like the idea of that. They might well take a punt and match that funding and put 5,000 in as well, because it's not that much money that they put in. For a distributor, 5,000 really is nothing. But what they've kind of got for that is they're banking that you'll be able to get the commission, and they've got the rights to sell that around the world. And I guess for you as a producer, if you can go and deliver to the broadcaster something that's cost 10,000 when they've given you 5,000, you make it that bit slicker, they're going to be quite impressed with that. Hopefully that's going to, wow, this producer can really deliver, or this is a lot better than what I was expecting. It just increases your chance of getting the commission. So I think going in early can be quite, and also it might even just be sometimes just in your approach, there might be some things that a distributor says that can kind of in your development just change your approach to things, where quite often somebody will come and pitch something to me and I say, are you aware of this show from wherever it might be? And they go, no. I say, well, look, here's an episode. Stops them from making either the same mistakes as somebody else, or making it too similar to something else, or just seeing what did work and what they can use in their slightly different show. So I think, there's no harm going before you've got broadcaster interest, if you're just trying to get to know distributors and sharing their slate, your slate with them. But they're probably not going to act on anything until you've got some broadcast interest. So I think that's a good time to go in.
Wonderful. Grayson, did I answer your question?
100%. Thank you. Sorry, I turned on my camera, but I'm still in my pajamas. It's early.
My gosh, yeah. You're allowed at 4 o'clock in the morning over there, so you're allowed.
And I've also left Canada. I'm actually on my way to Jamaica, so I'm in Florida at the moment. So
no, you should just stop showing off. Nobody doesn't want to hear. We didn't need that. We were hoping it might be snowing in Canada or something like that. So we didn't need
no, makes me feel any better. It's too hot. It's too.
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh,
too hot. I can't. I'm not made for this weather, even though my skin color might look like it. But I am struggling. And being
all right, thanks very much. See you soon. We've got another question from Marina. Can you see that? And I'm inviting Marina to come and join us on stage as well.
Do you know what? I would love a little bit more. Yeah, I can see it. I just love a little bit more clarification about this question. So is this more about producing stuff originally for YouTube, or about exploiting stuff that's been on TV then on YouTube?
Marina, you got your mic on mute. Do you want to take your off mute and then answer the question? The mute is next at the bottom, little square. Next to wonderful. There you are. You're on mute, though. We can see you, but you're on mute. You have to take it next to the camera button is the microphone button. If you unmute. Can you unmute? No. I don't know. Right next to the way you took off the video, is it not unmuted? Let me see. Right. So with the focus on is it easier for producers to pitch their series via there? I don't know. Can you talk about while Marina's sorting out her camera? Can you talk about that relationship if you've got like you? So what you were saying, whether you've got a program that exists that you can put on YouTube, just talk about the relationship between distribution and YouTube and how kind of producers can utilize that as a platform. I'm understanding that that's where most people you can't see. Oh, you can see it, but it's not letting me switch it off. Okay. She meant original content. So she meant original content. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Marina, that you were having problems with your mic. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. So YouTube, and I'm not an expert in this. Like, I'm sure there's probably a lot more people that are in this that know more about this than I do. But as far as I'm aware, YouTube aren't commissioning as much as they did previously, like original content that they did make kind of quite a big push a few years back, where you could go to them and pitch, and they would fund projects for YouTube. I believe they still do some stuff, but mainly YouTube's loading stuff, either whether they've shot it directly for YouTube themselves, self-funded, or stuff that has been funded by a traditional broadcaster and has been allowed, is come out of license, or the broadcaster themselves. Channel 4 have been putting stuff up on YouTube, full episodes of stuff themselves. And so the business model with YouTube is advertising. They have adverts around their around the content, and if you're the uploader, if you own the IP, if you own the program that's uploaded, then you get a share of that advertising revenue that your program has made. So it does need to be stuff that gets lots of views for it to be meaningful kind of money that comes in, but it can be very substantial. And there's going for a while, and you produce something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of old and maybe hasn't been seen on TV for a long time, but making really good money on YouTube because it's it's relevant to a new generation. People are coming to it and watching it. Clips channels do really well as well. I mean, like Marina mentioned Little Dot Studios, which are a company within All3Media that kind of specialize in all kind of digital and social media content. But I mean, I know that they run, for example, the Gordon Ramsay channel on YouTube. They run the Graham Norton channel on YouTube, and those clips get millions and millions of views, which equates to lots of money coming in. So they're worth, and they spend time. I mean, they have people there cutting videos from the content that's been produced years ago, repackaging them, cutting best moments, basically making kind of YouTube content from pre-existing TV show material. So there's definitely money to be made in YouTube. Again, I think it depends on what type of content you have. If you're talking about producing directly for YouTube, then I think it's whether you can make the economics work. Like if you've got your own camera equipment, then and what you're proposing isn't kind of that costly, it can make sense just to kind of commission yourself to put stuff up for YouTube. And also it can work as a really good proof of concept if you're going to go and pitch to a traditional network or an SVOD, if you can kind of show, look, there's an audience for it, because there are thousands of people watching my stuff online. I don't know if that answered your question, Marina.
If not, just put. I know that your mic is Lily. Maybe get you can help Marina. Yeah. Oh, Marina's there. Let's see. Yes, thanks. Brilliant. Thank you, Marina. And I think also a lot of production companies in previous sessions that we've had are just using it, like you said, to showcase their content, right? Or just using it as a space to have you know, have as a production company, making sure that you have a channel on YouTube so people can go to some of your IP. Is that something you would recommend people kind of utilizing YouTube in that way, even if it's not just the one-off, even as a production company? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that viewers particularly care that much about production companies. I'm not sure they care who makes the show or would have any. So I think it is probably more about brands. So whether that is about an actual show itself, or like if you make a lot of food content, then just make a food brand on YouTube, and they won't care whether your food whether it's who it is, you know, what type of presenter it is, on what type of show it came from, what channel it was on, because they're interested in foods. That's why they've come there. So I think if you can group it in some way, but I'm not sure grouping it by production company will work for views, because I'm not sure that
people care.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking as a production company, though, it is a good platform. So I do definitely agree with not necessarily grouping it as I'm production company, but just using some of your clips, thinking about how you can exploit your clips on YouTube on it is maybe more the point of thinking about where you can put, because I think there's a slight snobbery in the industry. I don't know if there is so much. You know, go on. Sorry, Nick, you said you look like you were going to say something.
But I mean, yeah, I was going to say, would definitely maybe it's not so much YouTube, but maybe like Instagram is great for actually as a production company, because and especially if you, whether you do or not have Instagram accounts for your specific programs, it may not make sense if it's not long running. If it's just kind of a one-off, you're probably not going to create an Instagram account specifically for that. But having your company Instagram account where you can share the promos and the trailers of the stuff that you make, and if people start to like the stuff that they're seeing, then they'll follow your company account, and I think that can be really powerful. And then if you do have something long running, then people are coming back to that, and then it's an easier way to market new stuff that you're producing to them. So yeah, I think every production company should have their own Instagram for sure.
Making sure that they have a digital presence. We're kind of writing up kind of rounding up now. What one piece of advice would you give to content producers that want to kind of get in contact or start working with a distributor? What can they be doing if particularly they don't know anything about, they're not too sure about the space? How is the best way that they can attract somebody like you to work with someone like, with their projects?
Have really great projects and be really excited about them, and then just pitch to a distributor in the same way you would to a broadcaster. I don't think about it as being any different, in the same way that, like, let's say you've got all your relationships at BBC and Channel 4, you've never pitched to ITV before, you're not going to be that worried about it, because look, I've got good relationships at BBC and Channel 4, I know how commissioners work, but I feel like I've got this good project that will work for ITV. So you're going to go in there, you're going to meet the person, you're going to find out who you need to pitch to, and you're just going to do your enthusiastic pitch. And it's the same with distribution. So a little bit of research, a little bit of speaking to people that, you don't need to necessarily, when I say research, if you say you don't know anyone in the distribution space, that's fine, but you'll know producers that have had their shows been pitched around the world. So like producers that you trust, that you've got a relationship with, ask them about their experience with distribution. Was there anyone that they really didn't have a good experience with, who they did have a good experience with, who they would suggest you speaking to, and then reach out. Distributors are always looking for content. So if you reach out and say, I've got this show, I'd love to pitch it to you properly, or here's a promo, or what do you think? They will respond. So it's not that difficult to kind of speak to a distributor. And I'm not the person that kind of, it's not my responsibility to look at content coming in, but people do contact me all the time, and I'm always happy to kind of intro. So I'm always willing for people to come through me, and I will help out as best I can.
Wonderful. So if you kind of need any advice, like I say, you can contact Nick. We'll have his details on the Mighty Network platform, but you obviously can connect him via. Sorry, and then you can connect with him via the festival over the next kind of 7 days. And if you haven't been thinking about distributors as a kind of potential, I mean, obviously, earlier on in the process, so you're kind of putting your energy in terms of just looking at commissioners, definitely think about distributors and start that conversation, particularly if you've got interest from a commissioner because it could be a lucrative opportunity.